Are you ready to uncover the dark secrets of an isolated hotel? In the haunted hotel, Jane, a new hotel receptionist, discovers a tragic murder-suicide that has been haunting the place for years. As she delves deeper into the hotel's history, she experiences chilling events that lead her to fear for her safety. She gets ready to face the evil force that haunts the hotel with the help of a mysterious stranger. But as the haunting gets worse, Jane is stuck in a nightmare and can't get out of the hotel. She realizes that the only way to survive is to face the malevolent force head-on. Jane and the stranger fight a battle of wills in the final showdown to get rid of the evil and find out the truth about the hotel's past. But will they be able to destroy the malevolent force, or will the hotel's dark secrets consume them both? Join us on The Tale Keepers as we take you on a thrilling journey of horror and mystery. If you dare, watch Dark Secrets of an Isolated Hotel, but be warned, once you check in, you may never check out. Jane has always been interested in the supernatural, so when she saw an ad for a receptionist job at a small, run-down hotel on the edge of town, she knew she had to apply. The hotel, she learned during her interview, had a reputation for being haunted, and her new colleagues warned her of its dark past. But Jane was undeterred, excited by the prospect of working in a place with such a rich and spooky history. As she settled into her new job, however, Jane began to feel uneasy about the hotel. There was something off about the place, something that made her skin crawl. The air felt heavy and oppressive, and the shadows seemed to move on their own. Strange noises, like whispers and footsteps, echoed through the halls at night. Sometimes, Jane felt like she was being watched. Her colleagues were an odd bunch, too. They seemed friendly enough at first, but as time passed, Jane realized that they were keeping secrets from her. They whispered to each other in hushed tones and exchanged meaningful looks when they thought she wasn't looking. Jane tried to brush it off, but the feeling that something wasn't right continued to nag at her. One night, when she was working late at the front desk, Jane heard a loud banging noise coming from one of the rooms. She hesitated for a moment, then got up to investigate. As she made her way down the dimly lit hallway, the banging grew louder and more insistent. When she reached the room, she paused, her hand hovering over the doorknob. She didn't know what to expect on the other side. Summoning her courage, Jane turned the knob and pushed the door open. The room was empty, the bed unmade, and the curtains drawn. But as she stepped further into the room, she felt a sudden chill. It was like someone had just walked over her grave. She turned to leave, but as she did, she saw something out of the corner of her eye, a figure darting from one shadow to the next. Jane gasped and stumbled backward, tripping over the edge of the bed. She fell to the floor, scraping her knee on the rough carpet. As she got back up, she heard the figure approach, its footsteps slow and deliberate. She spun around, but there was no one there. That night, Jane didn't get much sleep. She lay in her bed, staring up at the ceiling, listening to the whispers and footsteps that echoed through the halls. She tried to convince herself that it was all in her head and that she was just tired and stressed from her new job. But deep down, she knew that there was something truly evil lurking in the hotel. The next morning, Jane went to her colleagues, hoping to get some answers. But they just shrugged and told her that the hotel was old and creaky and that it was bound to make strange noises. They refused to acknowledge the fear that was growing inside of her. Jane knew then that she was on her own. She would have to look into the dark history of the hotel and find out the truth about the evil force that lived there. and she knew that the journey would be terrifying. But she had no other choice. If she wanted to survive, she had to face the fear head-on. Jane began her investigation into the hotel's dark past by scouring the old records kept in the dusty basement. She discovered that the hotel had been built in the late 1800s and had passed through several owners over the years. But it was one particular incident that left a lasting impact on the place. In the 1920s, a young couple checked into the hotel for their honeymoon. The husband, who was a successful businessman, surprised his new wife with a luxurious suite with champagne and roses. But their honeymoon bliss was short-lived. Just a few days into their stay, the husband's business partner showed up at the hotel, furious about some business deal gone wrong. The husband and his partner had a heated argument that turned violent. The husband, in a fit of rage, pulled out a gun and shot his partner dead. Horrified by what he had done, the husband turned the gun on himself and committed suicide. Jane shuddered as she read the account of the murder-suicide. She could feel the sadness and anger that still lingered in the hotel, like a thick fog that refused to dissipate. She knew that the story was just the tip of the iceberg, and that there was more to the hotel's dark history than what she had been told. As Jane kept digging, she heard rumors that the hotel had been the site of other terrible events. Stories of guests who had disappeared without a trace, of strange apparitions that had been seen in the hallways, of unexplained accidents and illnesses. As she found out more, she became more and more sure that something very bad was hiding in the hotel. One night, as she was poring over old photographs in the basement, Jane felt a sudden chill. She looked up and saw a figure standing in the doorway, watching her. It was a man, tall and imposing, with dark eyes and a menacing expression. Jane froze, unable to move or speak. The man stepped into the room, his footsteps slow and deliberate. He didn't say a word, but his presence was suffocating. Jane could feel his anger and hatred like a physical force that threatened to overwhelm her. She wanted to run, to scream, to do anything to escape the terror that was closing in on her. But then, just as suddenly as he had appeared, the man vanished. Jane was left alone in the dark basement, her heart pounding and her hands shaking. She knew then that the hotel was not just haunted, but cursed. And she was in the middle of it all. As she made her way back to her room, Jane realized that she was no longer safe in the hotel. The malevolent force that had been watching her every move had finally revealed itself, and she knew that she had to leave before it was too late. But before she could make her escape, she had to uncover the truth about the hotel's dark past and put the spirits to rest. And she knew that the journey ahead would be treacherous and terrifying, but she had no other choice. Jane's investigation into the dark history of the hotel only seemed to make things worse. The evil force she had felt in the shadows was now actively after her, and it seemed to be getting stronger every day. Jane saw terrifying visions of the young couple who had died in the hotel. In these visions, the young couple's ghosts were there. They appeared to be reaching out to her, their faces twisted in pain and anger. She also heard unexplainable noises, like the sound of footsteps in empty hallways, doors creaking open and shut, and strange whispers that seemed to be coming from nowhere. The presence that had been following Jane around since her arrival at the hotel was now more intense than ever. It seemed to be watching her every move, waiting for the right moment to strike. She became more and more sure that she was in grave danger and that the bad force was specifically after her. To make matters worse, Jane's colleagues seemed to be keeping secrets from her. They were reluctant to talk about the hotel's past and seemed to be hiding something. When she confronted them, they simply shrugged off her concerns. telling her that she was letting her imagination get the better of her. But Jane knew better. She could feel that something was not right, that there was more to the hotel's haunting than what she had uncovered so far. She kept looking into it because she was determined to find out the truth and end the evil force for good. As she dove deeper, Jane uncovered a dark and disturbing secret that had been kept hidden for decades. It turned out that the hotel had been built on an ancient burial ground, and the spirits of the people buried there had never been put to rest. The hotel had disturbed their resting place, and the malevolent force that had been haunting the place was their angry and vengeful spirits. Jane knew then that she had to find a way to appease the spirits and put them to rest, or else she would never be able to escape the hotel's deadly grasp. She started looking into how people were buried in the past, hoping to find a way to make up with the ghosts and stop the haunting. But time was running out. The malevolent force was growing stronger by the day, and Jane could feel its anger and hatred boiling over. She knew that she had to act quickly if she was to have any hope of surviving the hotel's deadly curse. Despite her best efforts, Jane found that she was unable to leave the hotel. Every time she tried to escape, she was met with an invisible force that seemed to push her back inside. The strange behavior of her co-workers got worse, and it seemed like they were being controlled by the evil force that was haunting the hotel. It was becoming increasingly clear that Jane was trapped in a nightmare from which she might never escape. Desperate for a way out, Jane sought the help of a mysterious stranger who had been lurking around the hotel. The stranger seemed to know the hotel's dark secrets, and he offered to help her face the evil force that had been haunting the place for decades. Together, they went deep into the dark and twisted history of the hotel, determined to find out the truth about the evil force that was holding Jane hostage. They found out that the hotel had been the scene of many horrible things, like murders, suicides, and rituals done by a cult that worshipped the dead. As they dug deeper, they started to figure out the strange history of the hotel and its people. It became clear that the evil force that was haunting the hotel was a powerful spirit that the cult's dark rituals had stirred up. The spirit was determined to exact revenge on anyone who dared to enter the hotel, and it seemed to have a particular interest in Jane. Despite the danger, Jane and her companion pressed on, determined to put an end to the hotel's deadly curse once and for all. They worked together to find out the secrets of the ancient burial ground on which the hotel was built, and to find a way to make the ghosts leave. With the help of the mysterious stranger, Jane performed an ancient ritual to put the spirits of the dead to rest. As the ritual came to an end, the malevolent force that had been haunting the hotel began to dissipate, and Jane could feel the heavy weight that had been pressing down on her. But their victory was short-lived. As they were about to leave the hotel, they were confronted by the cult that had summoned the malevolent force in the first place. The cult members, who had been lurking in the shadows all along, were determined to protect the secrets of the hotel at all costs. In a desperate fight for survival, Jane and her companion battled the cult members, trying to escape the hotel and put an end to the curse once and for all. But as they fought, they realized that the malevolent force was not the only danger they faced. The cult members were just as determined to keep them from leaving, and it seemed that they would stop at nothing to protect the secrets of the haunted hotel. The stranger reveals to Jane that the murder-suicide that occurred years ago was only a part of the hotel's dark history. The hotel was built on an old cemetery, and the evil force there is a vengeful ghost who wants to get back at the people who built the hotel on its grave. With this knowledge, Jane and the stranger devise a plan to trap the spirit and put an end to its malevolence. As they move forward with their plan, the haunting gets worse and the evil force seems to get stronger. The hotel's walls shake and objects fly across the room as the spirit fights back. The stranger and Jane are knocked to the ground, but they manage to hold on to the trap they have set for the spirit. The trap works, and the spirit is caught, screaming and thrashing as it tries to break free. Jane and the stranger use a holy ceremony to send the ghost back to where it belongs. As the spirit disappears, the hotel begins to crumble around them. Jane and the stranger make a run for the exit, but the floor collapses, and they fall into the basement. As they struggle to climb out of the basement, the hotel's destruction intensifies. They barely make it out before the building collapses, leaving a smoking pile of rubble in its wake. Jane and the stranger emerge from the destruction, traumatized by their experience and forever changed by what they have seen and done. In the aftermath of the destruction, Jane reflects on her experience and the lessons she has learned. She realizes that there are dark forces in the world that we can't always see, and that the past can come back to haunt us in unexpected ways. She leaves the town, vowing to never come back, and goes on with her life. But the horrors she saw in the haunted hotel will always be with her. Thanks for joining us on The Tale Keepers as we explored the terrifying story of dark secrets of an isolated hotel. We hope you enjoyed the spine-chilling tale of horror and mystery. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to our channel to stay up to date with our latest storytelling videos. We have a variety of thrilling and suspenseful stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Don't forget to hit the like button if you enjoyed this video and leave a comment below to let us know what you thought. Your feedback helps us create better content for you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video. But remember, be careful when checking into an isolated hotel. You never know what dark secrets may be lurking within its walls.